the gaming world has really been moving over the last few days. From Kratos' return to 2 different Far Cry projects, from Resident Evil's future plans to Stalker 2's massive update, there are some important developments we need to talk about. And behind the scenes, there is also Fable, whose budget may have gone out of control. So without wasting any time, let's take a look together at the most important gaming news from the last few days. Our first news comes from the God of War side, and honestly, there is a development here that is even more important than the announced release date. Santa Monica Studio officially announced that God of War, Laufey, will be released for PlayStation 5 on the 16th of February, 2027. On top of that, it was also confirmed that the game will have a physical edition. In the roughly 20-minute gameplay video shown in June, the game already looked quite complete. So it is not surprising that the release date is not too far away. But the real surprise came from what Cory Barlog said about how the series will continue after Laufey, because it has been officially confirmed that we will control Kratos again in the new God of War game, coming after Laufey. So this game will not be a change where Kratos permanently leaves his place in the series to Laufey or Atreus. Laufey's story will be told as a continuation of events that happened before, and at the same time, it will prepare Kratos' next major adventure. Honestly, this is the part that caught my attention the most. That means the Laufey game is not just an independent side story about the past. The foundation for some major future events will be laid here. Cory Barlog specifically talks about a mysterious character or entity named Frank and says that everything in the game is preparing for a much bigger event in the future. For now, we do not know exactly who or what Franque is. It could be a new enemy, a god from another mythology, or a character who will take Kratos to new lands. Naturally, this brings the Egypt theories back into the conversation. It had previously been claimed that Kratos' next adventure could take place in Egyptian mythology, and that a father and daughter could play an important role in the story. A journey Laufey took in the past or a threat she encountered could bring Kratos to Egypt years later. Of course, right now, it has not been officially announced that Kratos' new game will take place in Egypt. We need to separate that clearly. What we know for sure is that a new game starring Kratos is coming, and that Laufey's story will directly set up that game. I think even that is a pretty big piece of news for the future of the series. But first, we will see Laufey's story, and the biggest question already is this. Can a game about the past of a character whose ending we already know truly surprise us? If Santa Monica can pull this off, Laufey could stop being just the character we know as Kratos' wife and become one of the most important characters in the series. While the future of God of War is taking shape, there are also very interesting developments on Ubisoft's side regarding the Far Cry series. According to a new report from Tom Henderson, Ubisoft has completed the concept phase of a new Far Cry game codenamed Kodiak, and the project has now entered development. Kodiak is said to be an open-world first-person shooter that focuses on player interactions and stories that emerge through players' own decisions. Sources describe the project as quite ambitious, but it is also said that the game is still several years away from release. The way Kodiak came into existence is just as interesting as the game itself. Ubisoft was previously developing an extraction shooter set in the Far Cry universe under the codename Maverick, but the project was cancelled after running into problems. Kodiak, on the other hand, is said to be built using some systems and ideas created for Maverick. But at least for now, we can say that Far Cry has escaped becoming an extraction shooter. Honestly, I am not upset about that, because freely exploring a large world, surviving in the wilderness, and attacking enemy outposts however we want are some of Far Cry's strongest elements. And turning the series into an extraction game made of timed missions and loot collection never felt right to me. But Kodiak is not the only Far Cry game in development. There is another project codenamed Blackbird, which is said to be the next main game in the series. It is claimed that Blackbird went through some serious development problems and was internally delayed several times. Despite that, the project is said to be back on the right track and considered quite impressive inside Ubisoft. The game will also include a multiplayer system, where multiple players can experience the same world together. So this may not be a fully online Far Cry, but we could see a more extensive co-op structure where we can play the main story with a friend. The thing I am really curious about here is how Ubisoft will separate these two projects from each other. While Blackbird focuses on the main story and shared gameplay, Kodiak could be a freer experience where players create their own adventures. On paper, that sounds interesting, but when I hear the phrase players will create their own stories, I become a little cautious. Because sometimes that means a truly living open world, and sometimes it means a game with a weak story. In my opinion, Far Cry needs more than just a new map. It needs more realistic survival systems, a strong story, an unforgettable villain, and a world that reacts to our choices. If Ubisoft can achieve these things, the series could truly rise again. Another important development comes from the Resident Evil side. According to a claim from Dusk Golem, who is known for reliable Resident Evil leaks, Capcom is planning major story expansions lasting several hours for Resident Evil Requiem and Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake. Let's say from the start that this has not been confirmed by Capcom yet. So right now, we are not talking about an official announcement, but a claim made by a source considered reliable. Still, if it is true, it gives important clues about the new content plan Capcom may follow for the Resident Evil series. According to the claim, Capcom currently does not have a new Resident Evil side game in development. The company is thinking about filling this gap with long, single-player story expansions added to the main games. That is why instead of short missions or only a new game mode, more comprehensive DLCs lasting several hours could be prepared for both Requiem and Code Veronica Remake. Honestly, if they apply this correctly, I do not see it as a bad idea. A successful expansion like Separate Ways can make a character or events that were not explored enough in the main game feel much more meaningful. Which character we will control in the expansion prepared for Requiem is already a big question. We could see a period left empty by the main story, return to the same events through the eyes of a different character, or play a completely new story connected to the future of the series. Using a classic character like Leon would of course attract a lot of attention, but there is also a chance Capcom may give more space to new characters. On the Code Veronica side, there are even more options for a story expansion. Through Chris, Claire, Wesker, and Umbrella connections, they could prepare a chapter that reaches both past games and the future of the series. One of the most striking parts of the leak is the claim that the Requiem DLC could be released after Code Veronica Remake. If this is true, there may be a stronger story connection between the two games than we thought. Some events in Code Veronica or new scenes that will be shown there could continue in Requiem's expansion. This way, instead of releasing independent side games, Capcom could build a system made of major DLCs that connect the main games to each other. Still, I would not want smaller budget independent Resident Evil games similar to Revelations to completely disappear. So what do you think would be better? Major expansions lasting several hours, or Capcom developing independent Resident Evil side games again? After the Resident Evil news, this time we have not a rumor, but a direct official announcement. The first major story expansion for Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, Cost of Hope, will be released on the 20th of August 2026. The expansion will be released for Xbox Series X, S, PlayStation 5, and PC, and we will once again control Skiff, the hero of the main game. The story will begin with Skiff, following a signal coming from a mysterious PDA he has obtained. During this investigation, the fragile peace between the duty and freedom factions will break down, and we will be pulled into a new conflict in the zone. Cost of Hope will not be a small DLC made up of only a few new missions. It is said to offer a comprehensive adventure that runs parallel to the main story, with new regions, characters, enemies, and weapons. In the world of Stalker, the conflict between duty and freedom was already one of the most interesting parts of the series. One side sees the zone as a major threat that needs to be controlled, while the other believes it should be open to everyone. So these two factions facing each other again could confront the player not only with new creatures, but also with difficult choices. But I think the real big development is the free Update 2 that will be released on the same day as Cost of Hope. GSC Game World plans to move the game to a newer version of Unreal Engine 5 to improve performance and stability. Alongside that, new content and gameplay improvements will also be offered to all players for free. When Stalker 2 launched, it received major praise for its atmosphere, open world, and story, but its technical problems also overshadowed the game. Many updates have arrived over the years, but version 2 could be the biggest change made to the technical side of the game so far. Of course, upgrading the engine version alone does not mean all problems will magically disappear. In fact, such a major technical transition could create new issues in the first few days. Still, I think it is positive that GSC continues improving the game instead of abandoning it. If Update 2 truly fixes performance, improves the AI, and makes the open world feel more alive, Stalker 2 could finally reach the level it should have had at launch. For players who left the game unfinished because of technical issues, Cost of Hope may be the right time to return to the zone. Our final news is about Fable, and this time we will not talk about the game's story, but about what is happening behind the scenes in development. According to a new report, Fable, developed by Playground Games, has seriously exceeded its planned budget. Sources describe this situation as being uncomfortably over budget. We do not have an official number showing how much the game has cost, and Microsoft has not confirmed the report. But considering the game's long development process and the delays it has gone through, it is not very surprising that this claim has come up. Fable was first announced years ago, and its release was delayed first from 2025 to 2026, and then to the 23rd of February 2027. A long development period does not only increase employee salaries, but also technology, outsourcing, marketing, and production costs. Also, we know Playground Games mostly from the Forza Horizon series. They are extremely experienced in open-world development, but preparing a large, choice-driven, character-focused role-playing game is a completely different job. That is why it is possible the studio spent more time than expected while building new systems and creating its own RPG experience. The budget increasing does not mean the game is definitely bad, or that development has completely gone out of control. Sometimes major projects cost more than planned, but the final game still turns out successful. The problem here is that Fable will need very high sales numbers to justify this cost. One of the important reasons the game is also coming to PlayStation 5 alongside Xbox and PC may be exactly this. Microsoft will probably want to sell such an expensive project to the widest player base possible instead of limiting it only to the Xbox ecosystem. Another detail making things more difficult for Fable is its release window. Tomb Raider, Legacy of Atlantis, God of War, Laufey, Persona 4, Revival, Fable, and Metro 2039 will all be released in an extremely crowded period of about 2 weeks. Especially on the PlayStation side, Fable coming only a few days after God of War could create serious competition. On the other hand, Fable's first live gameplay presentation will be held at Gamescom, and this showcase could completely change the perception of the game. If the combat system, world, and choice mechanics are as good as expected, the budget discussions will be forgotten. But if the presentation fails to convince players, this report will turn into much bigger pressure on Fable. For now, these were the most important gaming developments from the last few days. Do you think Laufey's story will take Kratos to Egypt? Can Ubisoft revive the series with 2 different Far Cry projects? Also, did the Fable budget report worry you, and are you thinking about returning to the zone for Stalker 2? Definitely share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Take care.